Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and today we're going to take a look at our forward lines for 2017. We've lost Martin, we've lost Zorko, the list goes on. Montagna is also gone, Aaron Hall out of our forward lines. A long list of 2016 mid-forward options that served us very well cannot be selected in 2017. We have been given a couple back in return, which will help, but certainly it is making it quite difficult to pick our forward lines, and it does bring into consideration some other options, and perhaps guys that previously wouldn't really be considered may come into consideration now. I think Luke Dalhouse, McRae and Isaac Heaney will definitely be a popular top three selections for our forward lines. Dalhouse and Jack McRae obviously come in as the new dual position players, and as far as I'm concerned, they're locks. Lock the key, throw it away, do whatever you want. Dalhouse, outstanding player, as is McRae. I think Dalhouse is a no-brainer. McRae I haven't seen in every team, but I certainly think, given the players we've lost, it's hard to go past a guy who's capable of averaging three figures, maybe even a touch more. And of course, Isaac Heaney is the rage. Everyone's talking about him, extra midfield time, about to explode on the AFL scene. It's hard to disagree with that. I definitely think he's a fantastic selection, and I expect to see a pretty good season out of him and pump him up to probably mid-90s. I reckon he could certainly do, and he's capable of doing anything. He's an extremely talented player. So those three guys, I think, will find themselves into 80% of sides at least of a combination, and they should. I mean, they're extremely good players, and given we've lost a few in our forward lines, they absolutely must be considered and virtually locked. So I guess that begs the question, what else do we do in our forward lines? Probably you follow a similar structure to your back line, and most people will like to have the three premiums. So there's three I've just mentioned, and generally a fourth one, maybe your mid-price option, but I think most people will probably go with a fourth premium option and probably then tie in some rookies from there on in. I think candidates for the other position of premium status, just going down the list, I mean, Nick Riewoldt, you might consider, but I think he's just too risky at that price tag, and he's probably at that stage where he could fall off the perch at any moment. Franklin, you can listen to my Sydney preview. I ruled him out as fantasy irrelevant. He's no longer the fantasy beast we once knew, and I don't think he's one to be considered. Tommy Lynch, another key forward. I think he's a man you would certainly consider. He and Riewoldt and Gunston, I feel, are three key position players that maybe in the past we wouldn't have looked at, but I think you've got to consider them now. And certainly the younger of the three is Lynch, and I think he's probably the most promising. He's been long compared to Riewoldt and could produce similar numbers if he boosts his engine even more and the Suns play a bit better footy. Who knows, he could really build on that 93 average. Going through the list further, I mean, the likes of a Josh Caddy will probably be considered as well, and rightly so. I think Caddy's a real interesting option. Do you look at Mitch Wallace at 473? As a junior, found so much of the ball. I mean, that might be risky to go with Dalhouse, McRae and Wallace, but if they all select themselves within their own rights, then it's hard to say no. Probably coming back from the injury would make it extremely difficult to pick him with any confidence, but nonetheless, here's a tempting little option. Others might look at your Steve Motlop at 463, touted to play much more midfield time and is as fit as ever. Chad Wingard floating around as well. I like him as a selection. Cam Ellis-Yeoman as well is in there. Some people I've seen rolling with him. Shawnee Higgins, people love him sometimes, people hate him sometimes. Do you go with him? Your Paddy Ryder, you might start him in the forward line. There are certainly options. There's no doubt plenty of options, but it's about picking the right ones, obviously. And you know, even someone like Christian Petrarca, I feel like he could explode. I mean, you wouldn't pick him, I wouldn't have thought, but he's certainly a guy I reckon who could push the 90 if given the amount of time through the midfield. So for your forward lines, I think we'll have quite a few options to fill out our rookie spots, at least at this stage. It looks quite likely with a few mature age rookies in the likes of Smith and Eddie pushing for selection, and Harley Ballock as well. The Dockers looks like a likely type, and of course Aaron Black at the Cats. The position of the second forward alongside Hawkins is waiting for him if he wants it, and if he can take it, he'll certainly play, and he's at 137,000. And if he is named round one, he'll certainly be a popular pick. So I think for the forward lines, while we've lost quite a few, you know, everyone's in the same boat. It's easy and nice to pick a Dustin Martin. It's nice to pick a Dane Zorko. But at the end of the day, they're good scorers and good picks, but everyone has them. So it doesn't give you any advantage at all, really. I mean, every man and his dog had Dustin Martin last year, and you'd be stupid if you didn't. Now, these days, of course, Dalhouse will be locked, and quite a few will be locked, but I think there'll be a bit more discussion around some of the other players. Even Heaney isn't locked away by everyone. I guess that's just my opinion. Some people think he's a little riskier, and I think adding that other premium or two to your forward line will be extremely interesting. I feel that certainly a combination of Dalhouse, McRae and Heaney will be extremely popular, but maybe if an F3 or an F4 that someone goes a little bit different, whether you go Caddy, who I think is quite a good pick, whether you go your Tom Lynch or your Jack Gunston as maybe your key forward option, and people have been talking about this could be the key position season, you know, that might really give you an advantage. And I suppose while it's nice to have that comfort of picking a Dustin Martin in our forward lines and knowing that it's a good pick and locking him away, it is nice to do that with that sort of comfort in mind. But it doesn't exactly give you an advantage over the competition. It just gives you one position locked away that's nice and easy. So this time around, our forward lines offer a little bit more of a unique option, and I think if you play your cards right, you get more of an advantage over your opponents by going with some good selections, because I think it's good for SuperCoach in general as well. Nobody wants to have your obvious picks time and time again, because then everyone starts having them. Now, of course, we will have similar teams as the year goes on anyway, and there'll still be very popular selections regardless. But if we can just minimise some of those absolute lock no-brainer picks that are just maybe didn't have to be such no-brainers, then it does help to make a more of a unique competition and at least get us talking, you know, change a bit of the dynamic and not have our teams so same. And I think that'd be good for the game. So anyway, that's about a preview for the forward line. Of course, not focusing too much on our rookie price players, because it's just guesswork at the moment. We can't say anything with real assurity at this stage of the year. So as the pre-season moves on and round one gets closer, we'll certainly delve into those and get stuck right into them when we know a little bit more about their chances of playing. But for the moment, it's more about your on-field players and discussing a few things like that and structure as well. So thanks for tuning in, guys. That wraps up my line-to-line preview. Gone through all four of the lines across our SuperCoach field, so if you haven't checked out the others, feel free to do so. I'll be getting stuck into a few more things, bit of a Gawn v Dangerfield and why I'm not picking them, probably a few player profiles as well, look at some of the more popular selections after SuperCoach has been released a week or so ago. We'll start to look at some of those, and I'll give them more, you know, probably 5 or so minutes on an exact player. So if you're wondering about whether to pick so-and-so, well, I'll get stuck into him and have a chat about him. So subscribe to the channel as always, getting great numbers there. And if you're new to the channel, thanks for subscribing, it's much appreciated. Give a video a like as always, and of course always good to see the comments as well. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you soon.